everybody, I'm Andy Maurer, and I wanted to hop on here and give you a couple of really helpful strategies to help you move through a lot of these emotions that you might be experiencing. This is a really difficult season. It's a difficult time for families, it's a difficult time for work, and it's a difficult time for leaders to make sense of what is happening on the inside of myself. I'm convinced that you will make it through this time because God literally built us to survive. It's baked into the biology of our brain, a sense of fight, flight, or freeze. You will make it through, but I do want to help you manage what might be going on internally in your emotions. In order to do that, I want to talk about 3 tips today to help you make it through. The first is to balance out this spectrum, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The second is to balance out your body and your breathing. And then the third is to balance out your emotions. So first, let me step back and talk about a theory that I love. It's called the window of tolerance. It states that during the day we move through lower states of arousal to higher states of arousal, physiologically and mentally. So when I wake up in the morning, I have very low levels of arousal. And when I go throughout my day, maybe I face something stressful, my arousal states increase. Now there's a window of optimal performance. And stress is a good thing until it becomes too much. And when we jump out of that window of tolerance, we're either jumping out of it up here into anxiety, this heightened sense of what's called hyper-arousal, or we jump out of it down below, our energy levels get too low and we move into depression. And I know that those are probably 2 emotions that you might be experiencing a lot of right now, both anxiety and depression. So let me give you these 3 helpful strategies to stay out of anxiety and to stay out of depression and bring you back into this optimal window of tolerance so that you can show up for yourself, you can show up at your work, and you can show up for your families. The first step is to balance out the spectrum. So you know how we talked about hyperarousal and hypoarousal? When you feel like you're moving into a state of anxiety, don't do things that are going to increase your energy. Do things that are going to calm your energy levels. Listen to quiet music. Close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths. Take a slow walk outside. And exercise, make sure you're not doing high intensity exercise. Make sure you're doing maybe more like slow jogging or walking on a treadmill or maybe lower level weights. If you're down here on the other spectrum, such as hypoarousal, around that depression state, you want to actually do activities that increase your energy level. Okay, so you might want to breathe actually faster, and we'll talk about that. You might want to get outside in the sun. You might actually want to stand up and work instead of sitting down. Maybe don't watch as many TV shows. Maybe drink a little bit more caffeine. Be around a little bit more people if you can, even through FaceTime. The second thing is I want you to balance out your body and your breathing. So this is what this looks like. The first thing is to notice in your body throughout the day, what is my body telling me right now? And you might have to slow down multiple times throughout the day for 30 seconds, take a breath, and ask yourself, what's my body telling me right now in this moment? You're going to want to take really deep diaphragmatic breaths. So most of us, when we feel stressed, we take really shallow and small breaths. Put your hand on your belly. Allow your hand to move out and in through diaphragmatic breathing. So a deep breath. Your belly should move in and out, and if your chest is moving up and down, that means you're not doing it right. You're going to want to put your feet flat on the ground, okay? So if you're sitting and your legs are crossed, stick them flat on the ground and imagine that your feet are like these big redwood tree roots driving into the ground, anchoring you there. Visualize your spine become tight and firm like steel, and then on the front part of your chest, visualize your chest actually being warm and open. That's going to really balance your energy levels and bring you back into the window of tolerance. The third thing is I want you to balance out your emotions. And once again, you got to slow down to know what you feel on the inside. And if you're going to be critical about what you find, don't do it. You have to be compassionate and curious about what's happening inside of you. The first step to balancing out emotions is to acknowledge that you actually are feeling a lot in this time. You're not just a cognitive, logical person. God built you with emotion. It's good. The second thing is to pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? If it's hard to identify that, look online. There's charts of emotions on what you might be feeling. The third thing is to ask yourself, okay, if I feel fear, if I feel anxiety, where in my body is that stored? Is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? You might even want to ask that emotion, pause and say, my anxiety, what does my anxiety want to tell me right now? If it had a voice, what would it say? Maybe it would say things like, I can't do this, or I'm afraid. What will I tell my kids? The third thing is to really sit and pause and just be with that emotion. So give yourself 30 seconds to focus on that sensation, that emotion, and just sit with it. And research actually shows that when we name emotion, when we identify it and we feel it, it actually calms the emotion. The last step in there is try to talk to one person about what you might be feeling today. So as a recap, you got to balance out this spectrum. If you're in hyperarousal, you got to bring it down. If you're in hypoarousal, you got to bring that energy up. The second step that we talked about, which was balance out through your body and through your breathing. And the third step was to balance out through your emotions. Name emotion, identify emotion, and communicate emotion. We are all in this together. This is really difficult times, but I'm confident God built us, one, for survival, and two, He built us to be in community together. You don't have to do this alone. So connect with someone else. We're going to make it through this together, and I'm excited for some additional content that's going to come out these next couple days that's going to help you not only balance what's happening inside of you. We're going to talk about how to create a safe and secure home, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your spouse, to create a home of peace in the midst of a world of chaos.